Welcome to this exciting and hopefully interesting tutorial on the Content Aware Fill tool in Adobe Photoshop CC 2019. This tool was first introduced in October of 2018 and it makes removing elements from your photos a breeze. Today we are pleased to have, as a sample for the tutorial, this wonderful photo of a steam locomotive taken by Pete Lawrence of the Sumter Digital Camera Club. Pete has generously allowed me to use his photo for this tutorial. Thank you, Pete. In this tutorial, we will go from this to this. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, I have this beautiful photo taken by Pete Lawrence, a member of the Sumter Digital Camera Club, of a steam locomotive. It's a wonderful photo. And what we're going to do in this tutorial is we are going to get rid of these ties in the foreground here. And we're going to use the Content Aware Fill tool that was released in October of 2018 in Adobe Photoshop CC. And so it's a relatively new tool and not many people are familiar with how it works. So we'll go through the process step by step. The first thing I want to do is create a duplicate layer because I don't want to work on my background layer and take the chance of destroying anything in the photo. So I will select in my layers panel background and hit Control J, which will give me a copy of the background layer, and it's called background copy. And we'll double click and we'll rename that to train main, and we'll click off the original background and just leave it there. So as I said, these are the railroad ties that we're going to want to get rid of, and I will start by making a selection of these railroad ties. Now there are several tools I could use to do that. I could use the quick select tool. I could use the lasso tool, but I'm going to use the pen tool because I have a little bit more control with the pen tool. The pen tool creates a path, and we'll create a path around these railroad ties, and then we will convert that path to a selection, and it works like this. So you click in one spot to place your first path, and then you go to the next spot and click again. And so what we're going to do is surround these railroad ties with this path, just like this. And to close the path, you click on your starting point and it closes the path. So now we have a closed path. I will right click my mouse with inside this path and choose Make Selection from the drop down menu. Make Selection. Now we have an option of adding a feather radius, and I always usually add about 1 pixel just to make sure I captured all the pixels that I want. And we want it to go to a new selection. So we hit OK. Now, as you can see by I call these the marching ants line because they look like marching ants. We have our selection. Now we'll go into the Edit menu and we will pick Content Aware Fill. That's the tool. Content Aware Fill. We're now in the Content Aware workspace. And let me zoom out here so we can see what's going on. And we have our preview here. We have our source photo here with the green box, and I'll explain that in a minute. And on the right side here, we have our preview of what the fill will look like. So let me zoom in on there a little bit. You can see Photoshop has tried to fill it, but it didn't do a very good job yet. Now this green box in the source window is telling Photoshop where to take pixels from as samples for the fill on these ties that we're going to eliminate. And we don't want to use parts of the locomotive or the track or the grass. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of that. And we'll go up here, we'll pick the sampling brush tool. It's already picked, but if it isn't, pick the sampling brush tool. Click on the minus sign, which is to subtract from overlay area. The green box is the overlay area. And this is the size of your brush. We'll start with a relatively larger brush because I want to get rid of all of this. I don't want Photoshop to sample any of these pixels to use as the fill. So we'll go there, and then we'll get rid of the grass as well. And we'll just use the gravel. We can switch this to add to overlay area, make our brush a little smaller. Let's do about a 53, and then we can add more of this gravel in. We'll tell Photoshop this is what I want you to use as a sample for that area. And so you can see it's done a pretty good job compared to what it was before we started. There are some options that we can set in the tool properties, and we have 3 drop downs. I'll close them. First one is the sampling option, and all of this tells you is that the green colored box is the sampling area that Photoshop will use to fill in. You don't really need to change that. The opacity really just changes how the green box looks. If it's a little too bright for you, you can turn it down or you can turn it up. I always leave it on the default. The next setting is fill settings. Here's where we can make some changes. The first setting is called color adaptation. And color adaptation allows contrast and brightness to adapt for a better match. It's good for filling content with gradual color or textual changes. So we will play with this. From the drop down we have several settings. And we can watch in our preview window here the changes in real time as we change the settings. So we'll go from default to none. So you can see the change that happened. It actually looks better as none than with default, I believe. Let's look at high. Oops. And let's look at very high. You can see very high, some of this grass has creeped in here. We don't want that. I think the best way it looked was with no color adaptation. Looked the most natural. So we'll leave it at that. The next setting is rotation adaptation. It allows content rotation for a better match. Good for filling content with rotated or curved patterns. So we'll look at the setting and see what we can do with it. Right now it's set to none. Let's put it on low. And you can see the change. Medium. High. Full. And I don't like the way full looks. And the other ones all look pretty good. Let's go back to low. And go back to none. Yeah, I think none looks the best here. So we'll leave it at none. Next, our settings are 2 tick boxes. First one is scale. It allows content resizing for a better match. Good for filling content with repeating patterns of different sizes or under perspective. So we will click that and see the change. And there's the change. Yeah, it does look better actually. Before, after. Yeah, I think we'll leave that checked. The last setting is mirror. It allows horizontal flip of the content for a better match. It's good for images with horizontal symmetry. Well, we really don't have horizontal symmetry in this image, but we'll click it anyway just to see what it does. And there's after and before. I like the before, so I think we'll leave it at that. And the last setting is output settings. Now that we've successfully used the content aware fill tool to remove the railroad ties and fill the area in with gravel, we can output this to different options. The first option was current layer, And what that'll do is overwrite the layer with the new pixels with the railroad ties gone. The second option is new layer. And what that'll do is it'll create a new layer just for the area that we deleted the railroad ties. And that'll then overlay the photo in the layer panel. And we can check it and uncheck it to show the ties or to hide them. Or duplicate layer, which will just create a completely new layer of the photo without the railroad ties in there. So we'll use a duplicate layer. That's a good choice for this. And click OK. And there's our image with our new layer. I will deselect so we can see what it looks like. It doesn't look bad. So here's before and here's after. So let me zoom in here a little bit and we can do a little more cleanup here just to make it look better. This area right here where the gravel kind of dips into the grass doesn't look very natural. So we can fix that, and we will use, to fix that, we will use the healing brush tool. And the way the healing brush tool works is you find the area you want to sample from. You hold down the Alt button and you click with the mouse. Now the mouse has sampled that area. And then you can paint with your mouse over the area you want to clone. As you can see, I'm just moving the mouse, I'm not holding the button down. The area within the circle gives you a preview of what it's going to look like. So we'll just draw it there. And I think that looks pretty good. Doesn't take much. Now I see a few little problems that we can take care of while we're here. When I spoke with Pete Lawrence about using his photo, he indicated to me that he had already edited the photo and removed some elements from it. And just a couple little things that I notice is some repeating patterns here that was done with probably the clone stamp. So we're going to go to the spot healing brush tool just to take care of that. And all that spot healing brush tool does is wherever you click the brush, it'll take sample the area around the brush diameter and use it to fill. So we'll just click there, just one click, no need to drag, and see how that got rid of that repeating pattern. Let me undo that so you can see that again. So I put the tool over the area I want to heal. Just click the mouse button once and it's healed. You know, there's a few spots we can clean up a little bit maybe if we wanted to. Oop. And I think that looks pretty good. So let's take a look at the photo. And there we have it. We've removed the railroad ties using the content aware fill tool. It works pretty good. It looks pretty good. There are more things that we can do to refine this even further if we wanted to. We could take our sharpen tool and increasing the brush size. We can kind of go over there a little bit and add a little definition to the gravel, just one or two times. And there we have it, before and after. That's the content aware fill tool in Photoshop CC 2019. Play with it and try it out, try different things. I'm sure you'll find that it's a very useful tool in many circumstances. So hope you have fun with it. Thanks for watching my tutorial, and watch for more tutorials to come in the future, and we'll hopefully learn a few things about Photoshop together. Thanks and have a great day. Bye now.